Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the session. We'll just give it a few more minutes for people to join us. Um, just a few more minutes here. And in the meantime, feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. We're very excited about this session, which also marks the launch of our new report between UNDP and FAO, as well as in collaboration with UNEP, looking at advancing clean cooking for climate action, pathways to higher tier solutions, and scaled investment. And we really invite you to look at this report, engage with the content, and converse with us today. We'll also have opportunities to ask questions throughout the session, and so really encourage everybody to use the Q&A function as well in the Zoom. So with that, let me provide just a brief kind of scene setting in terms of why we're here today. So sorry about that. So basically, we're delighted to have you as we're exploring the growing opportunities to advance clean cooking for climate action. Clean cooking is increasingly acknowledged as an essential component for climate action. It's also a powerful driver for improved health outcomes, food security, gender equality, and sustainable development. And as countries move forward to implement their national climate commitments or NDCs, there's tremendous opportunity to position clean cooking as a core pillar of national climate ambition and action. And today we see that about over 120 countries have submitted their new third generation NDCs. And so this really creates a window of opportunity to elevate clean cooking in the climate action conversation and integrate it more systematically as part of ongoing implementation processes. And so this is really the focus of today's session. And we will also have a very exciting panel with government representatives from Uganda, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, who will also share evidence and insights on their work on the ground. As I said, we'd love to make the session very interactive, so please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, provide your name and organization and where you're joining from. And it's always inspiring to have this conversation with the global community working together to address clean cooking. And so to kick us off, we will have some opening remarks. So let me just introduce our opening panelists. So we will have opening remarks from my colleague here at UNDP, Matteo Salomon, Head of Climate Change Mitigation, as well as Michela Morese, Energy Team Leader and Senior Natural Resources Officer at FAO, as well as Anne Olhoff, Director of UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center, UNEP CCC, and of course, myself, Chibulu Luo, also Global Energy and Climate Advisor at UNDP. So with that, let me turn over to my colleague Matteo to kick us off with his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Lulu. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues from wherever you're joining us. We're very pleased to welcome you today for the launch of our new joint report, Advancing Clean Cooking for Climate Action, Pathways to Higher Tier Solutions and Scaled Investment, which has been developed by UNDP and FAO in collaboration with UNEP. And thanks, Lulu, already for providing some background and context into which we are launching this report. And we see it as a essential input in this pivotal moment just after COP30 and the climate summit this summer, where we had many parties that have now submitted their third generation NDCs, and over 120 parties have already submitted them, and many others are working in finalizing the process in response to the first global stocktake, for greater ambition and alignment with the 1.5-degree pathways. And today our discussion is focusing on clean cooking, which is a critical yet unfortunately often overlooked sector in the global effort on climate action and sustainable energy access. We do see a lot of political momentum and ambition around clean cooking, but we still are yet to move from ambition to action. And the numbers are a stark reminder of the situation and the challenge we still face with many people, 2.1 billion people still lacking access to clean cooking fuels and technologies. And this has many negative effects. Household air pollution, responsible for 2.9 million premature deaths annually. Uh, Clean cooking also often traditional cooking often use biomass, which is driving deforestation, reinforcing gender inequality, and limiting economic opportunities. And there are encouraging signs though that we're seeing in the sector, and the recent analysis we did, which is highlighted in this report we're launching today, showed that now 81 countries across the globe in their revised NDCs have included clean cooking, and clean cooking is increasingly recognized as a priority sector. Notably, 62% of these revised NDCs now include specific clean cooking targets or concrete actions, signaling strong momentum and creating opportunities to align with other policy process and mobilize resources at scale. As such, the NDCs now are becoming a powerful platform to align climate and energy goal and ensuring policy coherence. We are seeing many big initiatives such as M300, which is led by the World Bank and the African Development Bank in coordination with many partners that are seeking to expand access to a large number of people without access in Africa. And the interconnection between NDCs, energy compacts, and clean cooking with climate action really offer a powerful opportunities in these initiatives for this alignment and creating this momentum. We also see very exciting opportunities around electric cooking and how electric cooking is now being integrated into distributed renewable energy solutions such as solar mini grids, which is a sector in which at UNDP we work very in depth through our Africa mini grid program. And we see that incorporating electric cooking into the early planning stage of renewable energy mini grids portfolios can enhance the economic viability of projects on both ends, on cooking projects and also on mini grids projects. And through our work with the Africa Mini Grid Program and the Climate Promise, we are already supporting many interventions that are seeking integration of clean cooking into the distributed renewable energy infrastructure. For instance, in countries like Somalia, Eswatini, and Zambia. And we hope to be able to gather many lessons for these initial interventions where we are connecting those two essential subsectors for energy access. And this is why the policy recommendation 5 in the report echoes, and I want to highlight it as it promotes a system-wide approach that integrates clean cooking within the broader electrification and energy development efforts. And this is not just about the end-use appliance, such as electric appliances for cooking, but it's really about planning for renewable energy expansion and how we can leverage synergies to deliver impact at scale as it's much needed. So I really look forward for this engaging exchange and to hear more from country representative on what's working, what challenge remains, and how we can really work together and collectively accelerate progress on clean cooking. And this is also why we're coming together at as many agencies working as one UN today for this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Back
very
to you,
much,
Lulu.
Matteo, for that. And thank you for also highlighting your favorite recommendation. I would encourage everyone to take a look at all the recommendations that we have in the report, because we will also have a moment at the end to kind of see and find out from you, which one is your favorite. So thank you for highlighting recommendation 5. So with that, I'll now turn to Michaela Morese of FAO, who was also one of the lead co-authors on the report, to provide some remarks from the FAO perspective. Thank you, Michaela.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lulu. And a big thank you to the 3 UN agencies, sister agencies that joined forces hand in hand to have this joint effort. It's always a very good spirit to have this together. So we really join our efforts. Let's say that I would like to highlight how already, as Matteo mentioned, and as I'm sure also Anne will do afterwards, also to bring into the picture how each organization is bringing through this report its own expertise, which is very complementary with the expertise of the other. So how it's really cross-cutting the way we have been collaborating. So in FAO, as you can imagine, the importance of clean cooking is very much connected to, on one side, farmers. So the contribution of farmers to produce the biomass, which is used for clean cooking purposes. And on the other side, the second part of the importance of clean cooking connected to agri-food system is connected to food and nutrition security. So as I mentioned, it's key to consider the key role of farmers in the production of biomass, which is then used for clean cooking purposes, which implies consideration in terms of agricultural practices and sustainability of the related agricultural value chains. On the other side, I mentioned food and nutrition security. So we are aware that cooking is not only a daily necessity, but also a cultural and nutritional cornerstone within agri-food systems. It requires energy, and households without its related access face severe constraints. Clean cooking is essential for food security, influencing the quantity, quality, and nutritional values of meals. Evidence shows that households adopting affordable, clean solutions shift towards more diverse and nutritious diets. Conversely, limited access to clean energy undermines meal preparation, preservation, and safety, worsening malnutrition. And institutional adoption in schools, for example, or in hospitals, reduces fuel costs for cooking and improves meal quality, extending benefits beyond households. So the FAO's approach to foster the adoption of clean cooking solution is in two different directions, let's say. It entails both bottom-up and top-down actions, which means on one side, policies, and on the other side also the possibility to have sustainable fuels and technologies that meets the requirement of local populations. So first, I would like to highlight the adoption of clean cooking fuels and technologies that implies a deep change in local behaviors and traditional habits, which means a lot of capacity development and raising awareness kind of activities that are strongly necessary. On the other side, access to clean cooking needs to be integrated and prioritized more and better within national policies and NDCs. And this is very much connected to one of the or more of the priorities included into the report. And I would like to focus mainly on two priorities of the report. One, which is the one connected to the need for aligned policies for climate, agri-food, and development actions. And the second one is the connected importance of financial support. Talking about policies, clean cooking should be prioritized in NDCs. As Lulo mentioned, we did an overview, a study of NDCs, and only a few have their clear reference on clean cooking. And of course, this becomes a a driver for economic growth, agri-food transformation, and sustainable development. And what is most important, also connected to this, is that if included in NDCs, these policies connected to clean cooking could facilitate financial flow that would facilitate the achievement of these objectives. So in a sense, policies alone are not enough. They must be backed by, of course, reliable and sustainable financial support. In fact, a stable financing environment is critical for both initial uptake and long-term sustainability of clean cooking solutions. As FAO, we are strongly committed, and we have a robust experience in fostering the adoption of clean cooking solution through the implementation of concrete activities and projects. We have many examples that we could mention. And I can mention, for example, that we did an assessment of bioenergy potentials from crops, livestock, and woody residues in Rwanda, highlighting that the total potential energy from pellets and biogas from these residues could give access to clean cooking fuels to 33% more households, which is a lot. And in Zambia, we did the same, and the percentage of increased use of clean cooking solutions through the use of these waste residues was 12%. We are very much focused on clean cooking also in the context of the Global Bioenergy Partnership Project in FAO, where we assessed also the use of waste and residues to produce clean cooking energy. In particular, this project was connected to bioethanol. And in this case, again, we did a sustainability assessment on the two countries, in Uganda and Rwanda, and then also in some countries in Asia. So what I mentioned is just a number of examples of how FAO's work and commitment is to accelerate the transition towards clean cooking fuels and technologies in Africa and all over the world, where the role of policies and financial support is pivotal. All this is aimed to enhance household access to clean cooking technologies while improving their resilience to climate change impacts and contributing to decarbonize the global economy as part of our effort to achieve better production, better nutrition, better environment, and better life, leaving no one behind. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lulu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela, for that and for really highlighting kind of the broader system integration. So basically, we tend to think about kind of clean cooking being fundamentally an energy issue, but of course there are wider linkages with important sectors like agri-food systems. So thank you for highlighting that. Now I'll turn to Anne to provide maybe kind of from the UNEP perspective, and also maybe some of your reflections based on the recent emissions gap report. What are your priorities and what's your thinking as in the context of this report?
Thank you very much, and it's a big pleasure for me to both participate in and also to welcome you to this webinar on advancing clean cooking for climate action. So why is this important? Matteo already mentioned that nearly 2.1 billion people still lack access to clean cooking fuels and technologies. And nearly half of these people without access to clean cooking live in sub-Saharan Africa, where actually we see that the percentage of the population with access has gone down rather than been improving in recent years. And therefore it's great to see that clean cooking has risen sharply on the global political agenda over the past years. We've seen African leaders through AMSEN reinforcing that universal access to modern cooking solution is fundamental to climate resilience, to biodiversity protection, and to sustainable livelihoods, as Michaela and Matteo also highlighted before. So if we look at this from a climate change mitigation perspective, globally, greenhouse gas emissions from unsustainable biomass use for cooking are roughly equivalent to the combined emissions from international aviation and shipping. And while it's not a big global percentage, in many low-income countries, biomass cooking alone can account for up to 10% of national greenhouse gas emissions, which means that clean cooking is one of the largest single mitigation opportunities in those economies, and also has significant methane emission reduction potentials. More broadly, from an environmental perspective, clean cooking reduces pressures on forests and biodiversity, and basically tackles one of the main drivers of forest degradation. And of course, from a health perspective, millions of deaths and illnesses can be avoided from household air pollution, especially hitting women and children the most. And furthermore, from a broader gender and livelihood perspective, clean cooking saves time. You don't have to collect fuel wood. This time can be used for productive purposes, including education and income generation. So it also has a big potential in terms of creating local jobs in manufacturing, distribution, and servicing. And of course, as Michaela also mentioned, clean cooking plays an essential role for food security and nutrition. So there are many reasons why this is really a one-stop shop for development and climate purposes and environment purposes overall. And I think this new report is brilliant in providing some practical guidance on how clean cooking can be embedded within national climate strategies, also unlocking investment and supporting food system transformations, as well as accelerating energy transitions. And of course, UNEP looks forward to supporting this important agenda in collaboration with you and many others, and including through the Climate and Clean Air Coalition's Household Energy Hub and the Solar Electric Cooking Partnership, together with partners, including the World Food Programme. It's also promising to see that across the 81 countries analyzed in the new report, all now mention clean cooking in their NDCs, and 62% include specific quantitative targets for this. And we see several examples of progress overall. Many countries are starting to embed clean cooking into broader energy planning, including through energy compacts and integrated strategies. Matteo also already mentioned Mission 300, so I won't repeat that. But we also saw Sierra Leone's presidential initiative on climate change, renewable energy, and food security highlighted as an example of an integrated renewable energy, food security, and climate resilience plan with clean cooking. We've seen Tanzania's national clean cooking strategy and its national energy compact align clean cooking outcomes with targets to increase renewable electricity generation and grid connectivity. So I just look very much forward to hearing more from the speakers, providing reflections from on-the-ground experiences and also practical lessons from implementation, and look forward to the discussions more broadly on opportunities, but also challenges and how to overcome these challenges in the rest of the webinar. So thanks very much, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Anne. I think with all these three kind of interventions, the case has really been made for clean cooking. And thank you for highlighting the work being done in Sierra Leone, Tanzania. And we'll hear from representatives from these countries later. But allow me to just provide kind of a very brief overview of this report. We keep on talking about the report. And so let me just share just a little bit in terms of some of the key messages that we kind of highlight in the report. And really, again, really given, we have had a really good tripartite collaboration between three agencies that are really working at the intersection of clean cooking and sustainable development. But I'd also like to recognize the wide-ranging collaboration on the report and the colleagues from various partner agencies, government, and institutions who really reviewed and provided comments. And this really speaks again to the importance of the topic. And we hope that this report will be useful to countries as they look to implement their climate and development commitments. Now, we already know from the UNEP emissions gap report that the world remains off target to meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement, and the window of meaningful climate action is rapidly closing. And in this context, the report has three main objectives. The first is really to contribute to UNDP's Climate Promise 2025 effort, which represents the UN coordinated system-wide response to support countries on NDCs. Over the course of this year, UNDP has been providing technical leadership to the UN system at the request, to this UN system coordination at the request of the Secretary General. And we see a major opportunity to ensure that clean cooking is fully recognized and advocated for as part of this process. The second is really to assess, I think, as many of the speakers have already said, how clean cooking is currently represented in NDCs and offer guidance on how countries can begin to integrate cooking more effectively into their NDC process, but then also broader implementation process, including ensuring that higher tier solutions are clearly identified and prioritized. Finally, we highlight 7 key policy recommendations designed to support deeper integration, not only within NDC process, but then also with broader implementation efforts. This includes, promoting cross-sectoral alignment, as we've heard earlier, with electrification, with agri-food systems, with health and other sectors. Also, opportunities to unlock financing and the opportunities that carbon finance can bring as well, and identifying where we can start to develop really strong implementation coalitions, in the case of Africa, with the Mission 300 effort as an emerging example. And as we advocate for these recommendations, it's important to be clear about the types of technologies that we're advocating for. And we draw on existing literature where we clarify what we mean by higher tier solutions by showing how different cooking solutions are classified using the multi-tier framework. So the pink category represents cooking poverty at tier 0 or 1, and this represents reliance on open fires and traditional 3-stone stoves. And these methods carry significant drawbacks from an efficiency and emissions standpoint, high exposure to pollutants, low stove efficiency, and substantial time required to gather and prepare fuel. The middle category represents improved access, where communities use transitional technologies such as energy-efficient biomass stoves at tier 2 and 3. And these solutions do mark some progress, but still represent challenges from an efficiency and emissions standpoint as well. And so in the report, we really advocate for a shift towards the tier 4 and tier 5 solutions, modern cooking solutions highlighted in the dark green, which provide the greatest climate and health benefits. And we also emphasize the importance of renewable-based systems, so renewable-based electric cooking, biogas, and bioethanol, which can offer substantial advantages and are showing increasing market availability as well. And so just to share some of the evidence on what we're seeing in clean cooking representations in NDCs, and we heard the numbers, but just to re-emphasize, we sampled 81 countries globally, focusing on those that mention clean cooking as a priority. And among these countries, we found that 62% included quantitative targets or time-bound targets. And regionally, we see that Africa and Latin America are leading in terms of an increasing number of countries, including quantitative targets. And so this is really good momentum. And of course, the process cannot stop at the NDC process alone. And so there is a need to link these targets, these commitments, to ongoing implementation process as well. We also, in addition to the policy recommendations, we outlined several steps that countries can consider for integrating clean cooking as part of their NDCs. First, we recommend, conducting situation analysis to understand the current cooking landscape and local cooking practices. And so this includes assessing whether existing cooking data is sufficiently disaggregated by technology or fuel type, and identifying where additional data might be needed. Second, it's important to ensure policy alignment and coherence. National cooking targets need to be integrated as part of NDC development, and there is a need for the development of sectoral strategies that are also critical in terms of bringing all the relevant stakeholders together. Where possible, countries should also set specific time-bound and measurable targets across different technology and fuel categories, including targets for higher tier solutions where they make the most sense. Of course, every country has a different context. And so, of course, pushing for this where it makes sense. And we also emphasize the need to position clean cooking within national investment plans, budgets, financing frameworks. And this includes exploring opportunities for carbon finance as well, as well as synergies with existing electrification agenda and grid expansion plans at the local level. Finally, it's really essential that these targets are linked to ongoing implementation efforts supported by robust monitoring, reporting, and verification to track progress. And so just to end off with some of the policy recommendations, and we've heard a lot of these in the opening remarks, but I'd really like to draw attention to a few additional recommendations that are equally important. The first is really leveraging institutional settings for high impact aggregated delivery. This is recommendation 2. So clean cooking is not only about household energy use. There is a major opportunity for cooking in schools, health facilities, refugee hosting settings to really scale impact quickly. And these settings really provide important entry points for wider scaling up of interventions. The second is really removing market barriers. So this is recommendation 4. And this is really critical for unlocking financing and enabling meaningful private sector participation. And so one of the practical actions that we actually highlight is the importance of eliminating things like import duties on clean cooking technologies, because this can be a step to significantly reduce the costs for consumers and also stimulate market growth. But again, really, really encouraging everyone to take a look at these as we continue the discussion today. And so I will now end here and look forward to continuing to engage with you. And we will also have time to have questions at the end. But allow me to now shift to the next part of the webinar towards the country panel. We do have a very, very exciting panel, and this will be moderated by my colleague and co-author on the report, James Haslip, Senior Advisor of UNEP CCC. And James will be joined by Mr. Herbert Abigaba, head of the Clean Cooking Unit at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda, Mr. Nolasco May, Director of the Clean Cooking Unit at the Ministry of Energy within the Government of Tanzania, and Ms. Aminata Wuri, the Head of the Clean Cooking Delivery Unit at the Government of Sierra Leone. And so we could not have a more perfect panel to talk about what this means on the ground. And so with that, let me turn over to you, James, to take it away.
Thank you very much, Lulu. That was a very efficient summary of our big report. So thanks for that. So it's my pleasure now to moderate the panel discussion for the next 30 minutes. And as Lulu mentioned, we have 3 speakers from 3 countries that 2 of which are actually featured in the report, Uganda and Tanzania, as case study analyses. And they are representing they are the heads of the clean cooking units in their respective ministries of energy. Herbert Abigaba from Uganda, Nolasco Mlay, who I would like to know if he's with us, but perhaps not, and maybe he'll join us. And I've seen Aminata Wuri is with us online. Thank you for joining us. So we've prepared 3 questions to structure this next half hour, and we'll just sort of take it in turns, I think, just to kind of have a semi-structured approach to discussing some of the points that Lulu mentioned. And one of them, I think, is really about the need to focus attention when it comes to the NDC3s on investment in renewably powered Tier 4 plus technologies, and Tier 4 on emissions and efficiency. So we're talking about low carbon technologies. So with that in mind, the first question we've prepared is to understand in your countries if, how, or to what extent clean cooking is actually included in your country's NDC. And if so, does it have specific targets for Tier 4 technologies, which sometimes referred to as the modern energy cooking services, the MEX technologies. So maybe to kick that discussion off for the first question, I would invite Aminata to provide some responses. Aminata, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you're joining from. As James and Lulu mentioned, I am the lead for the Clean Cooking Delivery Unit in Sierra Leone, which was established by the Clean Cooking Alliance and the Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy, and Food Security. Regarding our strategy for the NDCs and embedding clean cooking within this document, clean cooking is featured in our climate plans. And let me just put it this way, Sierra Leone, clean cooking is not a side project. It's a central cross-cutting priority. Our strategy is really about managing a just transition, meaning moving away from the overwhelming reliance on firewood and charcoal towards a mix of solutions. We're talking LPG, electricity where feasible, improved biomass cook stoves, and emerging options like bioethanol. The goal is to attain universal access by 2035, and we have set up a dedicated clean cooking delivery unit that is under the office of the president, and giving that convening power to work across various sectors that are duty bearers to the clean cooking strategy. My unit really was set up to cut through the bureaucracy and coordinate all the key ministries. In Sierra Leone, the key ministries are the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, the Ministries of Health, Finance, Gender, Local Government, Trade, you name it. And we're tackling this through 4 pillars. The first one has been mentioned already by the previous speakers, is getting the policies and the incentives right. How do we ensure that clean cooking is embedded in all of the government programs and policies and regulations, just to make sure it is mainstreamed as much as possible? The second one is mobilizing the private sector to grow the market. We're working with the Clean Cooking Association in country to support them, to ensure that this association, their voice and their views are being heard by government, and actions are also taken to support the private sector. The third one is to ensure that solutions are affordable and inclusive. For Sierra Leone, for example, the affordability of certain technologies such as LPG is not actualized across the country. Accessibility is also an issue. So how do we ensure that these solutions that we do want to provide to the country can be affordable to all Sierra Leoneans, to make sure that it is accessible in the most remote areas? Last but not least, we're running a nationwide behavior change campaign. This was mentioned also. How do we get the population to know that other clean cooking technologies are safe? There is a myth about the safety around LPGs, for example. Traditionally, some people think that using electric cook stoves might not cook our own local dishes well, for example. So there's a lot of behavior change campaign that's very important, no matter how much we make it accessible. If people don't have the desire to use clean cooking technologies, then everything is for nothing. It's very central to the NDC. It's extremely central. In our latest NDC, the third generation, which runs from 2025 to 2035, clean cooking is quantified. It is a costed pillar. We have specific trackable pathways. For example, we're targeting improved cook stoves for about 900,000 households in Sierra Leone. The LPG transition has a target of around 60,000 households. Biogas systems, we have a target of 90,000 households. So each of these has a clear annual emission reduction targets attached. So it's fully integrated, which is very good. In the mitigation section of our NDC, for example, it is a major part of the energy sector plan. In the adaptation section, we highlight the critical health co-benefits, reducing those respiratory illnesses linked to household air pollution. And crucially, in the finance chapter, each technology has a price tag. The Improved Cook Stove program needs around 9 to 10 million US dollars. The LPG needs around 47 million. Biogas is around 140 million. So it's moved from aspiration to a clear, actionable, and funded investment pipeline. So in essence, our strategy and its deep integration into our climate pledge does create a clear roadmap. But I'll hand over to you, as I know we have other dimensions to unpack. Over to you, James.
Well, thank you very much, Aminata. That's fantastic. And I think it's good perhaps to acknowledge the pivotal role that the Clean Cooking Alliance has played in this space. helping, as you mentioned, to set up the clean cooking unit in your country, and they've supported many other countries. I think they've done a great job in doing that. And you mentioned that the just transitions, moving away from unsustainable biomass to a diversity of fuels. And that this, in this case of Sierra Leone, and I think many other countries, has this top-level presidential endorsement in your case. And this is crucial. I think this is something the CCA have also been pushing, this interministerial efforts to ensure coherence across government and society. So that's fantastic. And then just a final thing I picked up from your intervention, the quantified targets for clean cooking, a costed investment plan. This is exactly what countries need, I think, to make this transition a reality. So thank you so much for that very concise summary of your clean cooking strategy. I will actually now invite Herbert Abigaba, from your counterpart from Uganda, to come in and make an intervention essentially on the same question. So to what extent is clean cooking included in your country's NDC, and does it have specific targets for tier 4 efficient technologies for emissions? Herbert, over to you.
Thank you, James. Please confirm that you can hear me. Very good.
Yes.
My pleasure to be here this afternoon. I salute all the previous speakers before me, and thank you for sharing the insights. I was earlier on looking at the report, James, and I think it's very insightful and a good tool, particularly for Uganda, as I will share in a moment. I've been introduced. I'm called Herbert Abigaba, head of Clean Cooking Unit here at the Ministry of Energy, where I have the great pleasure of really leading our national program and strategy for Uganda. Now, to the question of the extent to which clean cooking features in Uganda's NDC, what I could share is indeed clean cooking is one of the priorities. I think, like my colleague from Sierra Leone, in Uganda, I think we're fast becoming a best in region, in terms of the policy enabling environment. So over the recent years, we've made some progress in terms of ensuring that our policies recognize and appreciate the need to elevate the discussion around clean cooking, right from our energy policy of 2023. We have gone through that now to develop a strategy, a national strategy, which I think we worked on with thanks to the support of UNEP and the CCAC. That has also gone a great way to articulate our targets. Now, within the NDC, we have indeed clean cooking within our energy sector actions or measures as one of those listed within both mitigation and adaptation measures, particularly around the ambition to increase access to clean cooking. And we've gone on to, I think this speaks to the second question on the level of targeting and quantification. What I could say is I think we have high-level targets. So we have recognized the target in terms of the access that we would like to achieve in alignment to our commitments for climate action and the NDC, particularly the Paris Agreement. However, I see an opportunity, and obviously reading the report, that we need to do more in terms of having definite targets. So for instance, if you're looking at, and I think it was Lulu who was sharing the different tiers as per the World Bank MTF, we think we will have an opportunity now to really define and redesign and have better targeting when it comes to clean cooking within our NDC. And I think I see an opportunity that aligns both with the timing of this report, but also as a country, we've just commenced the process of updating our NDC, so NDC 3.0 process. And I see an opportunity, given the work that we've put in over the recent years, to have, I think, better and more definite definition of clean cooking within our NDC, and how that broadly aligns to our different strategies. I think also, given the fact that we've been doing some work, and I think this speaks to the previous speakers who shared initially. So when you look at our alignment in terms of policies, policy coherency and alignment, I talked about our strategy, our national strategy. We have earlier on put in place our energy transition plan, and all these tools in one way or another speak to each other, and we've been able to continuously improve and define our targets. And so you see an opportunity as we update in the next cycle for the NDC to have more definite targets. And I think the report that James and your colleagues have put out is really a great tool that is going to help us in really articulating how we achieve that goal of ensuring that clean cooking features more clearly within the NDC as we update the NDC. I want to leave it here for now. I think I'll have an opportunity to share more on what we are doing and some of the experiences. But thank you, and over to you, James.
Thank you, Herbert. That's great. And yes, indeed, your country is leading very much in the region. It's my pleasure to work closely with you and your colleagues in Uganda, where we support the multi-stakeholder SOLCO partnership, which Annie mentioned earlier. And so we're glad to hear that there are still opportunities to align the Ministry of Energy or the Clean Cooking Unit's strategy with the NDC3, which remains pending. And of course, that is managed by a different ministry. So, working across is something that hopefully you can get support from us on as well. And I'm happy to hear that our report in itself may be useful to you to that end. So thank you, Herbert. So for the first question, the final speaker, I will now pass to Mr. Nolasco Mle, who's Director of the Clean Cooking Unit at the Ministry of Energy for the government of Tanzania. And for those of you who follow the clean cooking space, Tanzania has demonstrated high-level leadership in recent years as co-chair of the IEA's Clean Cooking Summit for Africa last year with alongside the Prime Minister of Norway. So fantastic high-level leadership from Tanzania. We look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Umle, about your country's strategy on clean cooking and the NDCs. Over to you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, moderator. I'm sorry for my camera. Let me be on the dark. Yeah, on the Tanzania, when you talk about the clean cooking, of course, the clean cooking is included in Tanzania National Determining Contribution, or the current one of 2021, within the energy sector mitigation priorities. And the NDC emphasizes reducing the household reliance on charcoal and promoting affordable alternatives fuel like natural gas and other sources for cooking. These measures are linked to the country's broader emission reduction goal, recognizing that a cleaner cooking solution can significantly reduce emission from the household energy use and the deforestation driven by charcoal demand. So the clean cooking is not presented as a separate sector. It's just a clear embedded within energy transition action aimed at supporting a low emission development pathway and contributing to Tanzania's overall mitigation target of reducing emission by 30 to 35% by 2030. Currently, the government is developing NDC 3.0, where clean cooking will be more clearly prioritized as a major mitigation action. This includes promoting efficient cooking technologies, strengthening the infrastructures and supply chains, also deploying innovative financial model and driving research and innovation among other interventions. So Tanzania current NDC, the current one of 2021, does not provide an explicit Tier 4 plus performance target. However, the government is finalizing minimum energy performance standard, MEPS, for e-cooking appliances like pressure cookers, electric pressure cookers, induction cookers, and the rice cookers, as well as the solid fuel cook stoves to ensure high efficiency and high quality solution enter the market. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Mr. Malay. Fantastic. And yes, really inspiring to see Tanzania's leadership on e-cooking in particular, which is an interesting shift in recent years. So that's really well noted. And perhaps that's a good transition to the second question, which was really about the role and importance of unsustainable biomass. Sustainable bioenergy in terms of the energy transition to clean cooking transition. And Lulu spoke about e-cooking, but actually the report makes clear that there is quite a significant role for sustainable bioenergy. But these, of course, for tier 4 plus bio-based technologies, including biogas and ethanol, and these often feature explicitly in some NDCs. But where they do, I'm curious to know if the government have in place any specific guidelines or regulations about how to address some of the sustainability issues surrounding bioenergy, potential conflicts with crops, etc. So maybe for that first, for that second question, I will go back to Aminata, because you spoke about a diversity of fuels in your country. How is the issues of the second order sustainability addressed in your NDC?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. To be honest, so bioethanol is a new concept in Sierra Leone. We have just launched a clean cooking strategy. In the NDC, it's not captured, to be honest, because of, I guess, the newness of it. There's a lot of focus on the LPG, for example, as the most viable option. Even though the use of LPG is currently at 0.9%, we see a lot of potential there. We're also trying to not really focus only on LPG. We want to see exactly how we can also utilize efficient cook stoves. There are some efficient charcoal that is being produced in Sierra Leone that we want to see how we can introduce that to the market. And we also want to see exactly how we can also leverage on the solar for e-cooking aspect. I do think that this is the first time clean cooking is actually being captured in our NDCs. It was launched right after the clean cooking strategy. I do think with the implementation plan, we can go into the more specific areas when it comes to the other technologies that can be leveraged. At this point, it's really just focused on the investment pipeline, the use of LPGs, the potential use of ethanol, and also electricity where it is feasible, because we do have issues with electricity still in the country. So looking at solar for e-cooking as a highly viable option.
Thank you so much. In fact, while I have you there, maybe just a quick follow-up question, because you mentioned e-cooking. Could you perhaps comment quickly on the coordination and alignment between the clean cooking strategy and the M300 strategy, which was also mentioned by Matteo in the introduction?
It's highly aligned. A lot of the data we have from the clean cooking strategy is what we captured in the Mission 300 Compact. The Mission 300 Compact has a component of clean cooking. It's a target. We have a target of $100 million for clean cooking. And a lot of the data that we have in the clean cooking strategy, of course, it was done via research, via some consultants from the EED consultancy in Kenya. So we kind of had that baseline to inform the Mission 300 and have up-to-date information. Historically, clean cooking, electrification, and investment were planned in separate corners. So my unit, established by the Clean Cooking Alliance, forces everyone to the same table. It is a government-led platform that brings together energy, environment, health, finance, gender, trade, local governments, all under one structured umbrella. And for regarding the Mission 300, the message is very clear. True energy access isn't just about lighting a bulb, for example. It's about being able to cook a meal without harming your family's health or the environment. So we're ensuring that clean cooking is embedded in the M300 country plans. And in our conversations with all development partners, we are moving to a whole of energy systems approach.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's a great answer. And maybe that's a hard act to follow, but I'll kick it back to Herbert in Uganda to ask the same question, because I know that in Uganda, you have an explicit, I think, target and strategy for ethanol and biogas in the clean cooking mix. So how do you see that in the bigger picture and alignment with the NDC, and also the issue of sustainability concerns surrounding those bioenergy fuels in particular?
Thank you, James. I think that's a great question. Happy to note that, like you rightly noted, we have a strategy which we have deliberately and intentionally called the National Integrated Clean Cooking Strategy. Now, the integration there speaks to the multi sort of technology that we are focusing on in terms of delivering our goal. So within the strategy, we have defined 6 value chains, including obviously the bioenergy that you just spoke to. So we're looking at obviously biogas, we are looking at ethanol, we're looking at pellets and the other processed biomass, solid biomass. We're looking at the traditional but with improved cook stoves. We're looking at LPG and electric cooking, so 6 value chains. And so I think similar to what Aminata was talking, we are deliberate that we're using the same targets because we've set targets for each of those. When you look at our energy transition plan of 2023, we have modeled how each of those technologies will contribute to our access. You rightly noted, James, that we're looking at about 10% contributed by these higher tier bioenergy alternatives. So we think that same modeling and will be then replicated in the different frameworks that we are updating, including the Mission 300. We are right now just concluding our compact, which we hope to present before Cabinet for approval, might be early next year in January. And when you look at our compact, we have clearly articulated clean cooking among one of the 5 pillars. But beyond that, we are also appreciating these same technologies. Why? Because Uganda might be different from some of the other countries across the region. We have the opportunity of being endowed by the bioenergy option. So when you look at, I think it was Michaela in her opening remarks who talked about the agro residues. We have a lot of that in plenty. When you look at ethanol, for instance, we have a quite developed ethanol value chain that is then based on surplus production for both maize or cassava or sugarcane. So we're looking at that ethanol, for instance, as one of those very important options. Maybe just to emphasize that ethanol is beyond just cooking, we're also looking at ethanol for blending. So just commenced our blending program. But yes, I think to your question, James, we think bioenergy plays a very important role in our mix. But beyond that, we have also gone ahead to put in place legal and regulatory framework to speak to the issues around sustainability. So for instance, we have a biofuels law of 2020 with a number of attendant regulations that then help to ensure, among other things, that sustainability is at the core of the development of that industry. You will be required, for instance, to ensure that you are submitting your ASIA reports for any of these interventions. You are required to ensure that you're working with the agricultural department to ensure that you're not in any way endangering food security. So all those have already been catered for in the legal framework that then support all the other aspects around sustainability and social safeguards. Over, James, thank you.
Thank you, Herbert. Yeah, so it sounds from what you said like bioenergy is very important in Uganda's clean cooking energy mix. but that there are some natural limits to this, also to ensure compliance with the non-climate sustainability regulations that you mentioned. So perhaps if I could ask you to make one more comment on the role and importance of e-cooking and renewably powered e-cooking in the longer term. Is that I understand that's very much the policy direction and ambition for Uganda, and if that's correct, then how do we get there? Or how does Uganda get there?
So very good follow-up question. Thanks, James, for flagging that. You're very right that Uganda, we are looking at these other technologies that I just spoke to as transitional options. We recognize that we need to balance the issues of sustainability with how our biodiversity or biomass systems are playing out. So in that regard, when you look at our scenarios, both within the strategy and the energy transition plan, as we move towards achieving our universal access goal in 2040, we obviously see electric cooking, for instance, play an increasingly important role. Towards 2050, it becomes the dominant technology. But obviously, LPG also is the other important solution. So over 70%, 75% of our cooking in the universal access scenario then comes from those two dominant options. Obviously, the LPG, partly because we have our own resources in the country, that summer also informs that direction. But yes, you're very right that we are looking at these options as transitional, but also under the universal access, we still have the modern sustainable bioenergy options play a role, but not a dominant role in the mix.
Okay, thank you, Herbert. That's fantastic. And maybe at this point, since we're at the half hour, if I could quickly ask my colleague Lulu to confirm if we have time to ask the third question, or whether we should move on to the Q&A section. What do you think?
I think we can have a quick third round, and then we can open up for Q&A. And then I believe we have Tiziana as well online to provide some remarks. Okay, great. Well, then I'll quickly pass over to, on the third question, back to Mr. Malay in Tanzania. And with a point that Aminata made earlier about breaking the traditional silos between clean cooking and electrification policy and investment planning. So there's a lot of talk about reconciling those two worlds. And then linking that to the issue of carbon financing to help finance the transition to renewably powered tier 4 plus technologies. So the question really is, how significant will carbon crediting and carbon financing for your country be for your country's implementing its clean cooking strategy, including possible use of Article 6 to meet the conditional NDC targets? Can I direct that question to you, Mr. Malay?
Thank you, James. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yeah. On the issue of carbon credit, it's really carbon credits play a very important role in financing Tanzania national clean cooking strategy. As we know that in Tanzania, we have the clean cooking strategy of 10 years from 2024 to 2034, which is its goal that to reach 80% clean cooking access by 2034. So in order to achieve this, it requires a lot of investment. It's almost about 1.8 billion USD so that we can achieve the 80% by 2034, the access. So especially to reduce the upfront cost, the initial cost that many households and institutions cannot afford on their own, by shifting to clean cooking technology like efficiency stoves, LPG, electricity, bioethanol, and the other, like biogas, we can reduce a huge amount of greenhouse gas emission. So those reductions can be turned into carbon credit. And the revenue from selling these credits can help lower the price of appliances and even the fuels. Supporting private sector growth and the fund awareness and the monitoring effort that ensure people continue using clean cooking solutions, especially the e-cooking. So in order to meet these condition and NDC targets, clean cooking is recognized as one of the priority mitigation action in the energy sector in our NDC, especially the one which we have, the 2021, the current one. Additional emissions reduction from scaled up adoption can contribute to meeting conditional NDC targets when supported by international finance. Under Article 6 cooperative approaches, Tanzania can enter a result-based finance agreement where verifies emission reduction are sold as international transfer mitigation outcomes. A portion of these outcomes may be transferred to international partners, while some are retained by Tanzania to track progress toward our conditional NDC targets. So overall, carbon finance will be a key pillar within a broader blended finance approach, complementing domestic resources, grants, and concessional loans. With strong social and developmental safeguards and high integrity digital monitoring, reporting, and verification system, we review carbon marketing and Article 6 in particular as critical enabler for scaling clean cooking access nationwide and delivering both climate and developing beneficial. So James, the carbon crediting is very important in our side. It can boost just much of the clean cooking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, you make some good points there about the role of carbon financing to overcome capital barriers to investment in these tier 4 low carbon technologies. And it's great to hear about Tanzania's ambition to generate ITMOs under Article 6. Which, as you say, depends on these digital MRV monitoring, reporting, verification technologies. And this is something we actually discuss explicitly in our report. So you've really aligned on that point. Thank you. Could I direct the same question back to Aminata in Sierra Leone to get an idea of how significant carbon crediting will be for your country to finance its clean cooking strategy. And you've mentioned LPG a few times, which is a bit of an elephant in the room and something that's controversial in UNEP, you could say. So we don't really address it in the report, but I'm interested to hear from your perspective the real world economics behind that transition. Thank you.
Sure. With the limited public finances, innovative finance isn't optional. It's essential, especially for a sector like the clean cooking sector. Carbon finance and RBF results-based financing are expected to mobilize around 320 million for our NDC overall, which is 11% of the total needs. For clean cooking specifically, it's a major lever. Take the biogas program. Carbon revenue is projected to cover around 14% of the cost, with other results-based financing covering 36%. But for Article 6, it's more than just revenue. It's more of a strategic enabler for integrity and scale. We will be actively building our national systems, strengthening our measurements and verification, setting up a national registry to ensure we can participate in the high integrity carbon markets. Our EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is leading this readiness work. We have a carbon policy framework that is in the draft stage. We want to update and implement that. And we want to also just ensure that every credit represents a real additional reduction. There's a lot of interest in Sierra Leone when it comes to carbon credits. We have a few companies on the ground in that space, and they normally use improved cook stoves. When it comes to carbon finance, LPG is not necessarily discussed as an option for now. There are companies that are interested in using LPGs for carbon credits in the near future. But in practice, carbon crediting does create a powerful performance-based incentive. It ties finance to verified outcomes, and this does provide a long-term revenue stream that can support the maintenance and the market sustainability. And hopefully, with time, when we do generate enough carbon credits, we can dedicate those resources to scale up the clean cooking sector, especially using those resources at the local government level in the rural areas where you have the highest deforestation cases in Sierra Leone. So, in a nutshell, carbon finance is truly a linchpin for us making this transition viable.
Great. Thank you so much. And Lulu's been texting me to tell me that we can go straight into the Q&A because we've only got a couple of questions, in fact. So we'll do that quickly now and then pass over to my colleague Tiziana for her commentary. And one of the questions actually is for you, Aminata, so stay on the line. The comment here, or the comment and the question is, congrats to Sierra Leone for its plans. I could not hear any mentioning of costed targets for electric cooking. And also the figures appeared to imply relatively high per unit investment on LPG and biogas, but perhaps I misunderstood. So that's an anonymously posted question. Could you comment on that, please?
Yes. So the omission of electric cooking is a strategic decision on our side. While the NDC third generation contains highly detailed and costed clean cooking strategy, it does exclusively target improved biomass stoves, LPG, and biogas. Electric cooking is not currently part of the costed portfolio, reflecting a pragmatic approach focused on technologies that do align with the current infrastructure, consumer habits, and the urgent need to move away from the traditional open fire cooking. Each country has its own, baseline. Our grid capacity and access is limited, and the reliability promoting electric cooking would require a massive and prior expansion of generation and transmission infrastructure. The NDC also does focus on decentralized solutions. So off-grid renewable energy, such as solar mini grids and home systems, are highly considered in this document to rapidly increase the basic access for lighting, phone charging, etc. The affordability also is considered why we have the omission. The chosen technologies represent a more feasible incremental transition for households currently using wood or charcoal. LPG and biogas provide, high heat, familiar cooking methods, while ICS, improved cook stoves, offer a more immediate reduction in fuel use and emission. So because of the infrastructure, that's why it has been omitted for now.
Okay, thank you for that. But you did raise the point earlier about breaking the silo between the clean cooking, electrification policy and planning. So I guess it's the direction of travel.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So there's a question here directed at all the panelists, but I think I'll pick on Herbert again just to mix it up. I'll read it out, but essentially I think it's about the DMRV issue. So based on your experience in the clean cooking sector, could you recommend software solutions suitable for monitoring key performance indicators in a clean cooking RBF project, results-based financing, particularly when the improved charcoal cook stoves being distributed do not include IoT features? Can you say something to that, Herbert?
Well, thank you, James, for picking me on that one. I think the colleagues on the call will supplement. But yes, I think that's a good question and borders what my colleagues were speaking to about really the data systems. Uganda, for one, we are right now just embarking on developing our DMRV system for the cooking sector, together with a national program. So we're calling it a National Clean Cooking Carbon Framework and Program. where we think, again, to the question I think you put before, we think it would be important to leverage carbon financing, but also broadly green financing to support cooking. Now, to the question on some of the technology options, maybe one that can come to mind is what we're using to support our work in RBF here, Prospect. I don't know if you're aware of the same, James, but we're using Prospect. It's one of the applications that we find compatible with the different tiers of technologies. And I think it has a module that is able to also integrate with the different MRV systems that you find on the market. But like I said, I think I will leave that to you if you can supplement together with your colleagues who might have better experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Herbert. Yeah, we did actually have, as I mentioned, a whole section on DMRV and in the context of carbon crediting, which I think a lot of the issues here are addressed in that section. So I would, for the sake of brevity, encourage listeners to read that part of the report. Okay, there's one more question that's come in, and then I'm under instruction to hand over to Tiziana. This is a question from Shiko. Oh, sorry, that's a greeting. Eda Wanjiku in Kenya. What have been your experiences with institutional clean cooking transition to electric cook stoves for schools and health centers in areas with unreliable grid? How long did the transition take? What were the costs and how was the funding actualized? Okay, so if it's okay with Mr. Mlay, I will direct this final question to you because I'm also aware that Tanzania has done some quite innovative projects with SE4 and WFP on institutional e-cooking. So could you perhaps comment on that last question?
Thank you, Jansi. Yeah, it's true. In Tanzania, we are having the support from C4All and WFP in supporting the 50 schools in Tanzania for the e-cooking. And up to this time, we have installed in one school, a primary school in Dar es Salaam, where we have seen the results. Really, e-cooking is working well in institution. Although we have another support from Rural Energy Agents, which is under the Ministry of Energy, where we support different schools in different solutions. For now, they are supporting much on the briquettes technology. So we have more than 1,000 schools which have been transitioned to the clean cooking. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, if I could say something in less than a minute, just to share on the institutional electric cooking.
Please.
And I'm happy to pick up the conversation with the member who asked the question, but happy to report for Uganda. I think we are doing one of the biggest pilots for institutional electric cooking, where we're targeting about 120 schools. We have been with our colleagues, I think they are also part of the GECO so-called discussion, MEX, designing very interesting projects. We've learned, we have had to overrun, especially our schedule because of the different unknowns, but it's been very, very interesting project. And fortunately, as I speak now, we have just finished the contracting. So we have got 4 technology providers who are going to work through those schools. And I think what I wanted to share is that the amount of learning that we've had to go through to design an institutional electric cooking solution for some of our institutions around. Happy to share more on this at the right and another opportunity.
Thank you, Herbert, and thank you, Mr. Mlay, for those interventions on institutional e-cooking. And great to hear the work of international partners and the multi-stakeholder umbrellas, GECO and SOCA, which we're a part of at UNEP. So fantastic. And a good positive note to wrap up on. Now I will hand over to my colleague Tiziana Pirelli, who coordinates the Global Bioenergy Platform, partnership for FAO, for some reflections and insights as a final section. Over to you, Tiziana.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the speakers. I will try to summarize the lessons learned in this webinar. I'm grateful that the speakers mentioned the importance of an interministerial cross-cutting approach, and especially Mrs. Aminata Burie from Sierra Leone, that highlighted the importance of bringing together multiple ministries, on which the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Gender. So it's important for advancing in clean cooking to break the silos, and this has been also highlighted by Mr. Abigaba from Uganda, and especially on important to ensuring the sustainability of bio-based solutions, for instance, in which it's truly important the collaboration between the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry, for instance, of Agriculture. I also appreciated a lot from Sierra Leone the lessons learned regarding the need to support with the communication campaign a behavior change that can build ownership of all the available clean cooking solutions, because it's important not only to put on the market the different technologies and the different fuels, but also to guide people in the shifting from the traditional way of cooking to the new clean cooking options, and also making clear that the same type of food could be cooked also with the clean cooking or with bio-based clean cooking solutions. So our effort as international organizations is not only in ensuring the dialogue at the interministerial level, but also in contributing in this communication campaign and in changing the behavior of people, and to develop ownership of these clean cooking options. I've also appreciated to hear from Sierra Leone, but also from Tanzania, the strong importance of supporting the private sector growth, because the private sector could truly make the difference in advancing clean cooking, but as we learned also, we have to build an enabling environment from the private sector, as also was mentioned by Lulu, for instance, by reducing or removing the VAT and enabling the environment not only for the private sector, but also reducing the upfront cost for the people that want to transition to clean cooking. So another important lesson I think came from Uganda and from the National Integrated Clean Cooking Strategy. So Uganda has highlighted the importance of having a wide portfolio, in the sense that having biogas, ethanol, pellet, improved cook stove, LPG, and e-cooking. So all these different options have to be supported by the government, because we know that different options could enable the transition in different contexts. As we have seen in the cities at urban level, some of the solutions will work better than others because the infrastructure is there. But in rural and remote areas, maybe the best solution is not the one that is working at urban level, because the infrastructure has still to be built, and maybe agricultural residues are available for enabling bio-based solutions. So I'm very happy also to have heard that very important step forward has been done in the 3 countries to mainstreaming the clean cooking at institutional level, and especially in schools. We heard about many e-cooking experience in Uganda and in Tanzania and Sierra Leone, but I also know, Herbert, that there are institutional clean cooking examples as in Tanzania, also in Uganda for clean cooking with pellets and briquette for advanced gasification and use of pellet in clean cooking. So I think we are on a good track, and I very much hope that this webinar has highlighted the many important lessons learned from these 3 countries that represent very good best practice, if I can say, in Africa. And I now leave over to Michela for the Mentimeter exercise and the final closure of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, James and colleagues, panelists, for the great discussion. And thank you, Tiziana, for the very good summary and recap of key take-home messages, because it's a nice closure of this webinar today. But before we close, we want to go for a Mentimeter exercise. So we would like to involve also participants beyond the panelists. You may have seen in the chat, our colleague Silvia from UNDP shared the Mentimeter website and the code to be used. You can also use the QR code that you see on the screen right now. Let's take a moment to allow all the participants to connect with the Mentimeter to do this exercise together. All right, let's start. Okay, so you have one question. All right, so if you can select only one option amongst the 7 policy recommendations that are in the report. The 7 recommendations are prioritize clean cooking in NDCs as a central economic, agri-food and development driver, or leverage institutional settings for high-impact aggregated delivery, or make financing a central pillar of clean cooking integration, or remove market barriers by eliminating VAT, import tariffs on clean technologies, or integrate clean cooking into energy and agri-food sector planning to leverage infrastructure investments, or use localized FNRB data to accurately quantify emissions reductions and strengthen carbon market participation. Last but not least, ensure broader systems integration. Slowly, we see the graph moving from one side to the other.
Michela, let me ask Sylvia to just show her screen so that we can also see the results.
Okay. Let's go directly with the results then. So we see that the prioritizing clean cooking in NDCs for economic, agri-food and development driver is the touched the pickest, let's say, in terms of preferences, but together with the integration of clean cooking into energy and agri-food sector planning to leverage infrastructure investment. So it means that really policies are really considered to be the key driver, both as NDCs and as sectoral policies. So this is a clear message that we are receiving from colleagues and participants. Let's go, if you allow me, let's go to the second question. So do not forget the number of the policy of the recommendation that you included in the previous one. So including the number, the sequence number of the recommendation that you already voted in the previous one, if you can explain why you selected that one. Please enter as a first type the number of recommendation so that we could cluster, you know, your replies. Please don't forget to put the number of the recommendation that you voted so that we can connect your comment, your reasoning that you are entering now with the, well done. Thank you so much. Super well done. Thank you. So why your preference to the policy recommendation that you voted before? So far we have, so the number 1 on policies. Why? Because it helps create enabling environment for all. Then who voted number 5, which was integrated clean cooking into energy and agri-food sector planning? It was because cooking needs to be part of electrification. All right. 2 replies regarding number 6. Okay, connected to the policy recommendation on carbon market. So, and the reason why this has been chosen is because carbon credits are essential and depend on impact assessment data, but also because it's fundamental for carbon financing of the clean cooking transition. All right. Again, on why the connection to NDCs, it's the importance to leverage multi-sectorial institutional settings, but also the importance, all right. The importance to include all these transition, let's say, into the NDCs. All right. But then also financing connected to the number 3, which is the financing as a central pillar. Someone says financing supports a more sustainable market systems approach. Good, very good. Last but not least, the 5th one. So it's the policy recommendation on integrated clean cooking into the sectorial planning. Someone says it's breaking the silos between different sectors to push forward the implementations from policy. And I believe that this is a perfect conclusion of our webinar, in the sense that we really have to break the silos. Clean cooking is so cross-cutting that it can't be treated on a silos mode. It's very cross-cutting. It touches upon so many thematic areas and aspects. That was also reflected by the colleague that was aiming to an interministerial approach. It's exactly this kind of approach. So thank you so much. I would leave the floor to Lulu for a very last word of cheering our participants. But thank you all for your participation. Over to you, Lulu, for a very final word.
Thank you so much, Michela, and thank you again to everybody that participated, our opening speakers and our panelists. I think this has been a very, very fantastic webinar, and we look forward to continuing to engage with everybody on the topic. We will share the slides as well with everyone registered, and feel free to get in touch if you want to continue the conversation further. So with that, I think we'll end here because we're slightly over time, but thank you again, everybody, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.